What's up, everyone? We are going to take a break from the Masters because we have to talk the NFL draft. It's only 13 days away. It snuck up very fast. Had to bring on senior draft analyst David Syvertsen with Ourlads Scouting Services. How's it going?
I'm doing really well. We are, like you said, a couple weeks away. I mean, I guess 2 weeks from today we'll be heading into day two, rounds 2 and 3. So we'll have a whole first round to talk about 2 weeks from now. And it's crazy how long the process takes. I mean, I start the process in May, June, and then it just, it all kind of funnels into these last really intense 2 months, and happy to almost be there.
Yeah, it's very close. This is the first. I'm actually going to the draft because I'm in Michigan now. So I'm very excited to go to the draft, and I'm a Giants fan. So it's very, they have the top 6 picks. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes being in public. Hopefully they don't mess it up. I'd love to know though, like, how did you get your start with Ourlads and scouting, since like my community is not probably super familiar with you. I'm sure there's people that know you, but I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually interviewed with your Giants back in 2009, back when Dave Gettleman was the director of pro personnel before he left for Carolina to be the GM there. And I tried to get a training camp internship. I felt like it was right there. It was within my grasp, but did not get it. Okay. And at that was a kind of like post-college, have to, come to Jesus type moment, look in the mirror and go get a big boy job, which I did.
Yeah.
Worked in finance for a few years, but it still kind of had this pull towards wanting to be involved in scouting in one way or another, whether it be media or with the team or with the league or even with a different league. And I threw out a feeler to Dan Shanka, who's the general manager of Ourlads Scouting, and he had a lot of years of experience in the league. And I really wanted to just learn from him. And I asked what I could do for him for free for years, to just kind of learn the business, learn the trade, and kind of prove myself that way. Because I'm big on prove yourself with work first and ask for the result later. And, he started me off with the job where I later found out it's kind of like a test to see if you really want to get involved, where you have to be a depth chart manager. It's as fun as it sounds.
It sounds very fun.
And for a lot of college schools, basically, you're just inserting names and changing heights and weights and inserting hometowns to these college freshmen from NC State that you'll never hear of again. And it's a long, drawn out process. But that was the start. And every year I was given a little bit more responsibility, and I had been asking for a little bit more responsibility. And long story short, I was a part of his staff that picked guys for the East-West Shrine Bowl back in 2020 and in 2019 as well. And then we moved on from that game. It's in different leadership now, but now I'm the senior draft analyst there, kind of on the side of what I do full time. So it's been a fun ride. I've learned a lot from these guys.
Yeah, it's cool what truly being passionate about something, what you can do when you are so passionate about something. And in your bio, it says something, because obviously I do a little bit of creeping before I just have someone on the show. We have to make sure we know what's going on. But in your bio, it says, be right or be wrong about your opinion, not someone else's. And I love that, especially this time of the year, because I think it's so easy to get caught up in all the smoke and there's so much going on. But I think that's an awesome way to approach the draft, especially.
Yeah. I mean, the market, while I've been involved in about maybe 10 to 12 years of doing it at this level, and it's changed so much in that time. And one of the things that has changed the most is just the volume of draft experts, draft analysts. And it's great. It's great for the business. It's the NFL draft. The ratings rival what we see on game day during the NFL. It's crazy what a business it has become. And Ourlads really is a founding father of how big. We just published our draft guide. We just sent it out. It's on everyone's doorsteps now. It's our 43rd one. It's 43rd year in business, I should say. And these guys go back to when Mel Kiper was not Mel Kiper. These guys would be the only 2 draft guys out there. And now it's but one thing about it is you can see where a lot of people just they're afraid to put themselves out there. They're afraid to share their opinion of fear of being wrong, especially in today's environment where there's receipts on everything. If you're wrong, it'll come back to bite you. And we take a lot of pride in coming up with our own evaluations. We're not swayed by the public. We are different from the consensus in a lot of different ways, including the quarterback position this year. I say that not to be stubborn, but to say that we are doing it our way. We do our own work, and we're not parrots of others.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a testament. 43. I mean, that's a number that speaks volumes. You just mentioned the quarterbacks, and that's where I was going to start with you regardless, right off the jump. Every year there's a lot of talk about quarterbacks, a lot of smoke, a lot of QB needy teams this year. Number of QBs to be drafted in the first round right now sitting at 4.5. I think it's crazy to think that there is maybe a little bit of value in that under there, and we only see 4, because I think Bo Nix and Penix, and I want to hear your opinion, obviously, I struggle with the two of them and where I think that they will go, because my gut just says second round, but again, does Penix sneak in?
You're right. We have them graded as second rounders. So your eye for talent there is right on. You're spot on with where they are. Does that mean they're going to get drafted in round 2? That's what the betting market is asking you. And the top of this draft, I think it's going to go 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks. So right now, if you take that under, you're going to be sweating bullets from the third pick on.
Yeah.
And, a gun to my head, I think the over is going to hit on that. I think I'm looking at 5, even though I have 4 first-round grades on quarterbacks. Because it's an economics decision just as much as it is a personnel decision. When you get a rookie quarterback on a contract, it is the easiest way to build a sustainable winner in a 3 to 5 year window, because you're paying them peanuts compared to the market. Yeah. And you also just look at the draft. If you're in agreement that 3 teams are going quarterback early on, Denver is going to take a quarterback. They don't have anything on that roster. And it's a hard sell for me that Minnesota won't take a quarterback. So that to me that's 5 right there. And I'm not even including the Giants. So, I could see as high as 6 and as low as 4. And that's why that market's right there. Right. And, is there value? That's the question, right? Is there value in trying to sneak that under? I would put less than coin flip odds that will be the number. I think the number will be 5 draft weekend night.
Yeah, I think that's where I lean finally. I struggle with, and you've been doing this a very long time. When you look at injury history and age, because I think there's a big conversation to be had. I went back, you go down these rabbit holes, and it's really hard to find a 24-year-old drafted in the first round that had a successful NFL career. There's not many drafted, and even the names that you see, they're not household names. We just saw it happen too with Kenny Pickett. And how do you predicting where these guys go, and the conversation with Penix, the injuries are there. As a Giants fan, you see people drafting him at 6, and I'm like, you just can't do it. There's just no way. So how do you go about evaluating where these guys go? Because it's difficult when age and injury come into the question.
Yeah, human behavior is very difficult to predict. I think I'd be a lot more wealthy if I was able to predict human behavior. And that's, at the end of the day, that is what this comes down to. Is right now currently general managers and coaches are meeting about who they're going to take. Teams don't know yet. So all these reports that we're seeing, this team's going to lean that way. This team, it's all made up. The coaches are now involved in the process, and I look at. Instead of just looking at historical trends and metrics, which is a part of the process, it's no different than scouting when you're looking at 40 times and vertical jumps. So it's a part of the process. But I look at the actual situations that these coaches are in. And I've had some success trying to project where guys go based on that. And, Sean Payton, who's in year 2, if this was year 1, Sean Payton in Denver, after already agreeing that he was going to make it work with Russell Wilson, then I would probably say maybe they punt on quarterback this year, load up on draft capital, and kick that can down the road until next season. But because it's year 2 for him, and because Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen in New York are up against it, they're in year 3 now. That kind of leads me to some conclusions, more so than age. Now, the Penix, that is the guy that I think will fall out of the first round. I had some thoughts on Las Vegas. I did some background work on what those guys have done. Again, that's year 1 of a regime. So I don't think they have that internal pressure to get that quarterback right away. And Aiden O'Connell, he went 500 last year. They signed Gardner Minshew to a 2-year deal. You look at what Tom Telesco did, the new general manager. You look at what he did in his tenure during Los Angeles. Half of his first-round picks were spent on offensive and defensive linemen, especially early on, as he was really heavy there. So that kind of takes that team out of the picture. So that's the direction I look in, more so than, how old is a guy, the injury history, even though their draft grade is definitely swayed by that. And Penix, for that reason, I do think will be a day 2 pick.
Yeah, and I think everything about Bo Nix it just feels like a Peyton guy, like the
Yeah.
hand
Oh, yeah.
size, the productivity. He's good
Yep.
under pressure. He likes his big hands and he's
He does.
accurate. There is things to like about Bo Nix. And again, I'm not sold that they're going to go into the year with what their quarterback situation looks like. So I think like QB to be the favorite for Denver's first pick, I'm leaning towards liking it. Like sitting there at -115, Peyton loves his big hands. He likes the accurate guy, like
Yeah.
decent, like it's very Peyton-esque.
And I'll tell you what he also likes. Peyton he's a tough coach.
Yeah.
He is a guy that if you got a Zach Wilson put into a Sean Payton offense, you might see some Drew Brees and be like, oh, this is going to work. But as we can see, Wilson can't handle that tough criticism. And Sean Payton, a lot of scouts this time of year will ask coaches of former players from programs, can they take tough coaching?
Yeah.
And that matters in some areas more than others. And Sean Payton is a tough coach. Bo Nix is the son of a legendary coach. The dude started 61 games. He got his butt whooped in the SEC, comes back and set records at Oregon. No FBS quarterback has ever started more games than Bo Nix. 61 starts. That is unheard of. And the COVID year helps that out. But that's another reason why I think it's a match. Even though I don't think he has a first round grade, Sean Payton is he is an egotistical coach. He could probably be under the impression that he can take a day 2 pick and make him a first round caliber quarterback, especially if he's got big hands.
Yeah, it's definitely giving Peyton vibes. Jumping into, they just posted these like top 3 exact order. Obviously, it's a big ask. How do you see this playing out outside of Caleb? I think at this point we all know Caleb is going to the Bears. There's no discussion to be had. So at 2 and 3, like Commanders, I would be surprised if they did anything other than taking quarterback. So is it Daniels at 2, or what would you look at as far as top 3 exact?
So I look at the situation. I look at Cliff Kingsbury. He's the offensive coordinator. He actually had a verbal agreement with the Raiders, and he's done this a few times over his coaching career. He kind of verbally agrees with you, and then he kind of changes my mind. Yeah. He changed his mind and went to Washington, and I strongly believe this had to do with what their plans are at 2. Can he make the pick at quarterback? Remember, he was the one that agreed to be the offensive coordinator at USC in December of 2018. A month later, he takes the head coaching job for the Arizona Cardinals in the year where most of us did not think Kyler Murray was the guy in that class, but he had a hard-on for Kyler Murray dating back to high school. And he probably had an agreement with Arizona. If I come coach your team, we're taking Kyler Murray. I believe that he has an agreement with Washington that he gets to pick the quarterback at number 2, or at least has a very strong say in it. And what kind of quarterback fits his offense the most? It's Jaden Daniels. Yeah. The quick release, the accuracy, the athletic ability. There are some air raid concepts to the LSU offense, which Jaden Daniels just played 2 years in. Simple, one read, get the ball out. Plays are 5 words, as opposed to a John Gruden or Sean Payton offense where you're speaking a paragraph of what a play is in the huddle. Jaden Daniels is set up for that. And Jaden Daniels, some call this a weak point, some call it a strong point. He is a guy that will drop back if his first 2 reads are not there. He's taking off. He doesn't do well against pressure because he's so small. He's easy to take down. That's the Cliff Kingsbury model. He's going to have to adapt to his failure in Arizona, but I think Jaden Daniels will be number 2. And that's where I just think that's a match made in heaven. I think that decision was made actually a long time ago. Probably just got some confirmation. Now, number 3 is where the draft starts to me, and it's New England. And they have a new front office, kind of. They have a new head coach, kind of. When I say kind of, they were there last year. They were in New England. Gerard Mayo was under Bill Belichick, and Elliott Wolf, the GM, was the director of scouting. And Elliott Wolf, his father is Ron Wolf, the Hall of Fame executive that worked for the Packers in the 90s. There's a book called The Packer Way. It's a great book, actually, if anyone wants to read it, just about business, small business, and trying to build. And there's 9 steps in that book and Elliott Wolf. I bring this book up because Elliott Wolf has said they want to use the Packer model for the future of the Patriots. And the first 2 steps in that book, 1, identify what needs to be fixed. Okay. And then there's a whole chapter on what the Packers did, how you can relate it to your life or your business. What did they do? They traded Mac Jones to be the backup in Jacksonville. They identified that's the hole. So that was step one of the Packer way here in New England. Step two, hire the best before anyone else does. Okay, so what that tells me is they're not going to trade out of 3. They're going to hire, right, / draft their next quarterback before anyone else can. And that name, it's going to come down to Drake May or JJ McCarthy, in my opinion. And to me, Drake May just seems like the guy that, I mean, his tools are better. I like JJ McCarthy better. I trust him. I get into the headspace, the mind game. And I think JJ McCarthy is very strong there. But that signing of Jacoby Brissett to be their starting quarterback, he's always been a bridge quarterback his entire career. And that Drake May is a guy that's going to need a bridge quarterback in front of him. So I think to sum that up, 1, 2, 3 will be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and it won't be a wide receiver. The Packer way, what did they never do for Aaron Rodgers? They never drafted a wide receiver, really.
Yeah.
So that's how I think it's going to go, top 3.
Yeah, and I think, and Vegas agrees with you. That's plus 130. It's the favorite for it to be that order. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I want to talk about JJ a little bit, and this kind of leads into the next kind of markets that I was looking at, and it's these draft position markets, which for everyone that's listening, I tweeted about it. Be careful when you're betting these because it's easy to get confused about it. So you're betting on the player's draft position. If, like, say the line expects them, the line says over under 5.5. That means if it's 6, it's higher. If it's under, it's top 5. So you always, it gets a little confusing when you're going to click it. It seems very easy, but sometimes people get very mixed up and you're betting the totally wrong thing. But all that to say, JJ McCarthy's right now, his line is 5.5. To go over, so to be after at 6 or higher, is plus 140, and then the under is the favorite right now. So for him to be a top 5 pick, where I struggle with JJ McCarthy is I think it's just that he wasn't touched a lot in college. So if he lands on a team, so I guess this has less to do with what team takes, whatever it is, what their thought process is, but he goes to a team with a crap O-line. Do we see a situation that we've seen over and over and over again where these rookies go to these teams, the O-line stinks, and that's it? Like, that's the end. You don't see the career that you want. So with JJ, do you see him being a top 5 pick? And is there what's the best landing spot, I guess, for him?
I mean, that's essentially, to me, that's asking, are the Giants going to take him at 6 or not? Or will somebody trade up for him or not? And that is a question I've asked myself about 300 times in the past 3 weeks. I don't see McCarthy going in front of May, just based on NFL prototype and the recent success of Josh Allen and Drake May. And I bring those 2 guys up because if there are 2 teams that are going to trade up and make the aggressive move into the top 5, which is where this betting market is right now, right? Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, he had Jared Goff in Los Angeles, and then they were good, decent, and then they get Matthew Stafford, who's got the tools, he's got the arm. He just needed a little bit better of a support system to go out and win a Super Bowl. So if the Vikings are going to make a move up, engineered by O'Connell, I think it's going to be for Drake May. If the Giants want to make a move up into the top 4 for a quarterback, Brian Daboll, I think, is going to be controlling those strings in terms of who they're going to trade up for. And his recent success of a toolsy quarterback that was inconsistent, that had poor mechanics, he turned him into an all-pro in Josh Allen. So I do think Brian Daboll is going to see some Josh Allen in Drake May. So that's going to just, no matter who ends up getting him, whether it's the Patriots, the Vikings, or the Giants. I don't see JJ McCarthy going in front of 6. If the Giants do take him, I think they're going to sit tight and stay there. So is there an ideal spot for him? I mean, it's a tough call. I would lean towards the Vikings being a better fit. They have that number 1 receiver. They have 2 tackles that are elite. I mean, it is an elite pair of tackles out there. And the Giants, we don't know what Evan Neal is still. And you make me gamble on those odds, I don't think he's going to have a starting job next year. So that's a tough spot for a rookie quarterback to be in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. I'm still under the impression, and I think the Giants are going wide receiver. I struggle with the thought, just because, and I could talk about this all day, but the paying Daniel Jones, and you haven't had a wide receiver 1 since OBJ was there. We're talking 10 years ago, and I think the way that I see the draft playing out, it just makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a situation where maybe, one of these teams does get QB hungry, and we're talking they might have the pick of more than you would expect at 6 as far as wide receiver one goes. One of those guys, which
Yep.
I think he will be there, but I think there'll be another option too. So Rome Odunze, his draft position is sitting at 8.5.
Ooh.
He's not getting as much love as I think he does deserve, but I think that's because of the other two big names. How realistic is it for him to fall out of that top 8?
Oh, man. I think he's going to go before 8.
Yeah.
And I can make a case for or against. And to me, this comes down to what are the Chargers going to do?
Yeah.
I'm with you, Stephie. I think Giants are going wide receiver for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And I lean towards, if Brian Daboll gets to have the say, which I do think that's a very collaborative effort in that front office coaching staff.
Absolutely.
He's going to see some Stephon Diggs in Malik Neighbors and just the ability to line up all over the offense and get in and out. The playmaking, he loves yards after catch guys. And that's where Neighbors is elite. He stands out above Harrison and Odunze in that department. Harrison, let's just pencil him into Arizona at number 4.
Yeah.
So basically, is Rome Odunze going to go to LA Chargers? And a lot of people are pointing towards Harbaugh, really leaning hard into the offensive line. And that, to me, I thought that a month or two ago. But since then, they've gotten rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I thought they would get rid of one of them. I mean, that wide receiver depth chart, if you look at it at the Ourlads depth charts, what the Chargers have at receiver, it is as bad as it gets. And you have an all-pro quarterback ready there. You can't just keep waiting until next year.
I know.
And here's a trend that I noticed with Harbaugh when he was at Michigan. He was not a guy that was constantly going after the 5-star recruits at offensive line. What he did was he found certain skill sets of guys that were in the transfer portal, grad transfers, guys that were spent 4 years in college already. They were looking for somewhere to play their 5th year. Not household names, but they had chemistry, experience. So he kind of went discount shopping for the offensive line, and it worked out. They had an offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award, and they were a ground and pound offense. If you're looking for ground and pound linemen, you don't need to spend a top 5 pick on that. They have an all-pro left tackle. Are you going to have Joe Alt come in and play right tackle? Which he didn't play at Notre Dame. He was a left tackle there. And I know some guys can do it. Some guys can't, though. So I'm actually leaning towards the 4th, 5th, and 6th pick of this draft being at wide receiver. And so that leaves Tennessee and Atlanta open at 7 to 8. You always have to account for the potential trades. But that's why I think Rome Odunze is going to go before the 9th pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I don't think there's another position that a lot of these teams that are drafting early on, they need a wide receiver 1, and you still get that with Rome. You brought up Joe Alt, and I'm torn on him too. I think because he's a very safe pick, I think, in this draft. Like, I think a majority of people that have watched enough Joe Alt, like, you are just getting a cornerstone tackle, very safe, like the great run blocking, and Harbaugh loves to run the ball. His line, though, for draft position is 7.5. Where do you think he goes? Because he's an interesting one, because it's hard for me to believe that he starts slipping to like 8, 9. Does he go at 7 to the Titans because they have to replace their left tackle that they just released, and we've seen them make all these moves where they want to win now, and they're going to give Will Levis the best opportunity. And I think it'll be a very short leash where they get rid of him if it doesn't go well. But where do you see Joe Alt going, though? So Vegas thinks 7.5. They think he's going in the top 7.
I feel really safe about him going top 7 because as much as I just talked the Chargers into wide receiver, I do think there's a shot that Harbaugh does take him. But Tennessee is the floor to me because Brian Callahan, the new head coach, he turns 40 after the draft. His father is Bill Callahan. He's one of the all-time offensive line coaches in the history of the game. He just joined the Titans staff, obviously, right? Fun little father-son situation there. And one thing he has done in his previous 2 stops, Washington and Cleveland, his first or second year at those teams, that team used a top 10 pick on an offensive lineman. And you match that fact with the idea that the left tackles from Tennessee allowed 88 pressures combined last year. It was a revolving door. It didn't matter who was there. And I'll tell you what, you're going to try to get the most out of Will Levis, who you traded up for last year. Remember on round 2, your resources now need to go into protecting him first. I mean, screw defense, screw pass rusher. That's priority B. You got to protect this guy. They got him a playmaker in Calvin Ridley. And now the next step is get the offensive lineman. They did use a top 15 pick last year on their left guard, Peter Skoronski, but he's a guard. And you still have a gaping hole at left tackle. So to me, if he's there, I mean, that's going to be one of the easiest picks of draft weekend if he's actually there at 7.
Yeah, I think if no one, we don't see a team trade up, I still like the value on the Chargers to take Joe Alt at 5, only because it's sitting there at plus 450. Yeah. And I think it's still a realistic pick.
Absolutely.
I know that they do have, obviously that gaping hole. They need wide receiver help. But it wouldn't be totally shocking. It is a deep wide receiver class. So do we see them do something else? So I think Titans or Chargers right now, they kind of make sense. Speaking of wide receivers, before I start to wrap up and let you get out of here, but Brian Thomas Jr., his draft position right now, sitting at 16.5. Very explosive playmaker, still had production at LSU, regardless of having, neighbors there. He's not going to make an impact blocking or anything, but he's a great downfield threat that shows a lot of control, and I think will still be an asset to teams. Where are you at with Brian Thomas, especially at that 16.5? So does he go top 16? Does he go after that? Where are you at?
I'm in the top 16 for him. I feel pretty confident about him. I think it's going to be him and or Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. Just big dudes that can run. I mean, what he did at the combine between his height, his weight, his 40 time, and his vertical, it's been done 4 times in the past 20 years. And we're not just talking about a freak athlete. If anything, his tape is what put him on the first round radar in the fall. As impressive as Jaden Daniels is at throwing that deep ball, I mean, Brian Thomas got open. He was a finisher. He was a high school basketball player with D1 basketball offers, 1,000-point scorer, a little late to actually really going all in on football. And now that he is, you're starting to see him kind of blossom at the right time. And then he goes to the combine and puts out a historic workout. And Adonai Mitchell had a similar workout too at similar size. But Brian Thomas, to me, I mean, there's multiple teams in that top 15 that I love. And the safety net, the floor for him is Indianapolis. If you look at the physical profile of what their Chris Ballard, the general manager, uses their early picks on, it is tools. He loves tools. He's not gonna grab your wide receiver that runs a 4.55 with good routes. He's like, no, give me the freak. And what did they do last year? Anthony Richardson. What do they need to do? Add some more pieces. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. Pierce is not working out, so they have a spot open for another downfield threat. It's almost pointless in drafting a quarterback like Anthony Richardson if you don't have guys that can get down the field. That's the one thing that offense has been missing for a couple of years now. They don't have a vertical threat. They have a bunch of underneath intermediate guys, and Brian Thomas is a legitimate deep threat with a rare blend of tools. That's a match made in heaven for the Colts.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Top 16 there for him. Still solid odds, a little bit juice, but not horribly. I want to talk a couple smoke screens, and then I swear I'll get you out of here so you can enjoy your Friday. Off the top of your head, is there one little rumor that immediately you're like, I'm not buying that, and I don't think that is going to happen?
Man, I mean, the quarterback stuff, I try to stay away from the rumor game
so
as much
hard.
as I can.
It's so hard.
I mean, I think all this talk around the Giants being really aggressive, trying to trade up for a quarterback, it just doesn't make sense to me because, and I'll eat this if I'm wrong, but I've been saying this for a few months. And what did I say? What did we say at the start, Stephie? Be right or wrong about your opinion, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Jones comes here, gets his 5th-year option declined. And then he wins, makes the playoffs, wins a playoff game. Didn't have a great year, but played well enough. And then the Giants give him the richest contract in franchise history, plays 6 games behind an absolutely awful offensive line, gets hurt. And now they're gonna, that's like a seesaw. And to me, general managers and coaches, especially Joe Schoen, he is like vision, stick to the plan. Yep. I don't know. This team, they need a playmaker as much as they need a quarterback. I'm sorry to say it. And if one fell into their lap that they had an elite grade on, I do think they'd pull that trigger, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I don't buy into all this quarterback talk. I think the Giants have gotten a lot better in the post Dave Gettleman era at throwing some smoke screens at people to kind of just get them away from, because for years, everyone and their mom knew what the Giants were going to do in the draft.
Yeah.
And now we just don't know. So I think that's the rumor I don't buy into, that the Giants are going to be going aggressively after a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you. And everyone that listens to this show and follows me on Twitter, I've planted that flag. I think they're going wide receiver. I don't think it's I don't see a world where that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You also, now that Saquon's gone, have the opportunity to actually open this offense up a little bit. Not that Saquon isn't an amazing talent, and that's the reason why a lot of Giants fans watch games for a very long time, but they also, we weren't passing the ball. There wasn't a lot of attempting to be a modern offense in the NFL right now. So I think it just doesn't feel realistic for the Giants. I think, that first Q&A that Shane did too, I could see them totally round 3, doing a dart throw on a quarterback. Absolutely. I could see them taking someone later, because Joe Shane at the Super Bowl, people missed out on this because they want to hear what they want to hear, but he specifically noted Brock Purdy, and he kept noting these guys that, you can get in a later round, but do you see the potential that you can develop them? And we've seen Joe Shane do that too. And, in his draft picks, he drafts these guys in the 3rd, 4th round. You're like, what are you doing? But you see why it makes sense, because they want to develop them. They want to be homegrown. So I'm with you too on that one. Wondering what you think about New York Jets. It's the Rodgers show. I think he runs the show. I think the most consistent draft pick outside of Caleb going 1 is Brock Bowers to the Jets. I think that is, and I get it, because I think there's an argument for them. Yeah, you'd think, oh, they could take a wide receiver, but you're also getting a lot with Bowers. You're getting a weapon in the fact that he can do so much. Does that make the most sense? Because I do flirt with the idea of O-line.
Yeah, Brock Bowers would be fun. And
fun.
I was really, I have a son named Brock, so it's just I have a soft spot for that kid. And I love watching him play football too, the Brock Bowers. And I'm laughing because I was debating this with a Jets friend of mine this morning. I was like, you really don't want Brock Bowers? How fun would that be? But Joe Douglas, who is up against the wall, there's no question. This might be it for him if they don't see, and Robert Saleh too, the head coach. But what I love about him as an executive and as a decision maker, as a team builder, where he came from, he really values the offensive and defensive lines. And to me, they've been putting Band-Aids on wounds that need stitches with the offensive line. And that, to me, that is what will prevent Aaron Rodgers from reaching the pinnacle here in New York. It's the offensive line. In my opinion, he can make it work with a 2nd, 3rd tier group of pass catchers. Yeah. And let's keep in mind, he still has Breece Hall. He still has Garrett Wilson.
Correct.
To me, if they go receiver or Brock Bowers, that to me means this team is in full-blown panic mode, and they're getting away from what they know will work. And Tyron Smith is the tackle they signed to protect Aaron Rodgers' blind side. There is one guarantee about Tyron Smith, and it was that he will not be playing the entire year. Yeah, he's a good 100%. Player. The dude does not play all year. He's going to get hurt. And I said this the other night, where you have to make a plan. What is your plan when he gets hurt? Not what will happen if he gets hurt. What are you going to do when he gets hurt? The right tackle, Morgan Moses. He is a man's man. He played with a torn pec. But again, he's on the way wrong side of 30 as well. They have young backup tackles, but this is what got them into trouble last year. This is what has they tried this with Dwayne Brown a few years ago.
Yeah.
So to me, this is an ideal spot for Olu Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have notes on him from last year because I thought he was going to come out last year.
Yeah.
I just wrote to Brekashaw Ferguson. That's what I wrote. And here we are, the Jets.
Okay.
That's a spot and the issue with Fashanu is he might not be a week 1 starter. He doesn't need to be. You can let him sit for a half a year until Tyron Smith goes down. And, I think that's the move to make. The sexy move, the headline move would be Brock Bowers. And hey, that's what the Jets have been doing in recent years. Go after the headlines. But is it creating wins? No, it's going to lose these guys their jobs if they keep going down that route.
Yeah. And a majority of people, NFL fans, Name the tight end that you associate with Aaron Rodgers. They would sit there for at least 30 seconds to a minute to try to name that tight end, because it's not what you think of when you think of Aaron Rodgers. And he's also, he's really elevated wide receivers the entire time. But I think offensive line makes sense too, because what's the plan after Rodgers? Because at some point you got to start thinking ahead. Like, are they off the table to take a quarterback later on? I don't know, but I know one thing, and it's that their offensive line has been a problem. They made some solid moves in free agency, but you got to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. You got to look ahead to whatever the next rookie is that you bring in, because I doubt they go the vet route again, but and you can still get really good numbers on them to take an offensive lineman there. Last question here before I let you get out of here. Something that's not getting spoken a lot about, which it normally doesn't until the day of. And we're seeing, these wide receiver ones on, draft day get traded away because it's kind of expensive to have them on your roster, especially when you have these young guys coming in and starting, right away, they're making a big impact. Is there a player that you could see be on the move the day of the draft?
I do. I have one name. I'm glad you asked, because I don't get to talk about this that much.
It's perfect.
Brandon Aiyuk from San Francisco, entering a contract year. They are paying Deebo Samuel. I think this is the final year where they're going to get a huge discount on Brock Purdy, so they're going to have to start paying him soon. They have a lot of expensive contracts on that team, and Shanahan has done a really good job with Deebo and Brandon Aiyuk when they're both healthy. But he's another guy that can manufacture production. His scheme manufactures a lot of production. And I do believe you can get Brandon Aiyuk production for a third of the price, and there will be a market for him. What the Eagles did to trade for A.J. Brown a couple years ago, I think they can get first or second round value out of a Brandon Aiyuk trade. And as much as it is hard for a Niners fan to take that in and say, wow, I don't want to get rid of this guy, you have to look at it from the Moneyball approach. When the A's let Jason Giambi go back in 2000 or 2001, you're not going to replace Brandon Aiyuk with a player, but you can replace his production. And that to me is like a Shanahan specialty. And this is also a draft where, they're sitting at 31 overall. If they gave away Brandon Aiyuk in a trade up effort, I bet they get into the top 15. And now you're looking at, a slew of guys that can really fit into what that offense does, or they wait till round 2, round 3, because this wide receiver class is so deep. And like you said, I think the wide receiver groups they're here to stay, because I think this is the 4th year in a row where I'm like, man, this wide receiver group is deep. It's just the way the game's being played now. Dating all the way back to youth football and 7-on-7. Like, there's just going to be wide receivers coming to this league every year that can produce at a high level. And with the contracts that these receivers are getting, the percentage of salary cap spending that they're taking up now is almost double what it used to be when you're looking at just sheer percentages. I mean, they're being paid like quarterbacks. So at some point, that market will soften a little bit. But right now, it's not. And if Brandon Aiyuk wants to be paid top dollar next year, he's going to be paid top dollar. So why not get a premium draft pick and draft his replacement to an offense that can make it work?
Yeah. And you see teams, all the time. I know I said I was getting you out of here, but like, you see teams all the time kind of stick with these guys a little bit too long. And it's not that they're, you can value the talent, but does it make sense long term? Like, you need to know when to take the knee and get them off of your roster, because at some point you do have to look ahead. So, like Joe Schoen, I give him a lot of credit because I think he is like a big picture guy. And I think that matters right now in the modern NFL. We just talked about the wide receivers. I swear this is my last question. I will shut up after that. I hate the term sleeper because I think it means something different to everyone. Like, cannot stand it. But is there a wide receiver that you think will be successful at the next level that we are not hearing about? Like, will make an immediate impact, kind of like the Puka Nakuas, which Puka's, environment is a lot of why I think he found immediate success. But what is the wide receiver that like no one's talking about?
Man, Malik
Although
Washington.
everyone's talking about everyone now, so it's hard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I can't be the first guy to say. I will say that the guy that he just keeps popping on my radar when I'm looking at because again, this is the time of year where like a lot of the work is done. So I just look at trends and workout times and production. And Malik Washington from Virginia is a kid that he measured in at 5'8", 191. All right. So yes, he's short. All right. But he's got big hands for his size, and 191 on a 5'8" frame. The dude is yoked. And This is a kid that was right up there production-wise with Malik Neighbors
Oh.
in catches, yards, first down percentage, yards per route run. I mean, these are metrics that carry over to the next level. And this is a kid, when I'm looking at all these measurables, and I always try to find comparisons from a trait perspective, not this guy is going to be as good as XYZ.
Right,
Because as you
right.
said, any smart football fan is going to know that the situation dictates a lot of success. What team they get drafted into, who's the quarterback, right? But Malik Washington, the way he moves, the way he competes, his build reminds me of some Tyreek Hill.
I love
And
it.
again, I throw caution into the wind there that he's not, I mean, he did not run a 4.2 like Tyreek did, but he
Right.
did. I'm looking at his combine. He jumped 42.5 inches. I mean, he had the highest vertical of, I think, every receiver in this class.
Crazy.
He ran a 4.47, a 1.53 10-yard split. That he 19 bench press. I love it when wide receivers bench press. It's like
yeah.
he's a dude. He's a
Yeah.
competitor. And 5'8" is not going to be for
I like
everyone.
it.
But again, you get an offense like Shanahan. Let this dude do some damage after the
Yeah.
catch. He can line up everywhere. That's the name that I'm going to be looking for
Cool.
anyone that plays fantasy football, Malik Washington.
Nice. Yeah. And I think we're seeing short kings kind of thrive too a little bit more in the NFL now. Like height is, we're not paying as much attention, and you're seeing these guys find a little bit more success. You were fantastic. Like, I would love to have you on after the draft. This was great. If you guys do not follow Dave, please go do that on Twitter at Ourlads_Psy. And then their draft guide just came out. I only got to take a quick peek, but it will be something that I'm going back to. I'll make sure that Ryan puts it in the description. But I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Stephie. It was great to meet you, and I look forward to the next time to chatting.
Yes, absolutely. Have a good Friday.
You too.
See ya. Hello.
Well, hello.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. I just found out I had a friend with benefit that canceled our benefits. Can you do that?
You had a what?
A friends with benefits that canceled our benefits.
Well,
she canceled the benefits package.
How do you cancel benefits?
What's that?
How do you just cancel? Like, you state I'm done with the benefits part, or
she's done with the benefits part, but she's still on it for the friendship. So
okay, but see, that's where friends with benefits becomes an issue, because like now you can't be friends. You're done.
I know, right?
It's done. It's over. Like, you crossed the line, and you guys knew at some point it was going to come to this.
It does feel, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't listening to her or something.
You look very frazzled right now. So Dave and I are having a really great and intellectual conversation here. You're like, shit, I lost my benefits.
I lost my benefits. That's exactly what happened. She texted me during the conversation. I mean, I feel like I got some great draft day bets.
I know.
So I was liking those benefits, but
yeah, his insight was awesome.
Package.
I definitely want to get him back on after the draft, but there's definitely some bets I'll be placing after like having that conversation, because
Dave's the man. I've learned so much. I've been working at Ourlads with him, and I've learned a lot about the draft through producing his videos. So that's been great.
It's very nice to look at it too from like a not degenerate, like gambling, like outlook, like someone that, is doing this at a scale level,
Exactly. All right, we're ready for question one.
Questions before we get out of here.
Let's go. All right. Okay, this is from Jose Canseco through Fantasy Genius. Would you swallow your dog's throw up to save your best friend from dying?
Like, that's so fucked up. Like, okay, my questions are, if I throw it back up, is that okay? Or no? Like, do they still die if I don't fully digest it?
I feel like unless it says that you can't throw it back up, then that's okay. So I'll go yes.
Yes, I would do that. But I'm not going to say who the best friends are. But like, there's not many that like will qualify into that. But like, I would save you for sure. Like, there's certain people I would save you.
Thank you.
Kaya doesn't really throw up gross. Like, it's just like not that disgusting, and so it'd be fine.
Yeah, I have a Chihuahua, so eating Chihuahua puke's not that big. So I would do it for you too.
Amazing. I love that for us.
All right. What is your breakfast order at a diner? That's from Nikki the Good.
Okay. I really pissed the internet off this time, Rye, which is not saying a lot because I do it all the fucking time.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
I don't think this should be a hot take. Like, breakfast food is like not elite. I would much rather have, like, I'm taking pizza over eggs every single day of the week. Like this morning, it was like 9 a.m. I was texting my friend. I posted the text, whatever, the screenshot of it. And like I was warming up my leftover taco and like 3 wings at like 9 a.m. But like, why wouldn't I eat that? I don't think breakfast food is that good. It's not.
It's not. You're never a breakfast for dinner.
No, I think those people are fucking weirdos, to be honest. Like and maybe like honestly, maybe it's because I do hate maple syrup, and I think there's a level to it where like, okay, there we can take into account, but like I would much rather have a normal, like I'd rather just I eat leftovers for breakfast all the time. But I'm not, and someone got mad. You probably didn't see this comment. It's actually really fucking funny. He was like, well, let's see how endearing you are when you weigh 200 pounds. I don't mean I'm eating pizza for breakfast every morning. Like I'm typically having eggs. I have cottage cheese. I'll have a protein shake. But the bottom line is breakfast food sucks. Like it's not that good.
Oh, I don't know. I disagree. I mean,
I know people were
would
mad.
say
People were really pissed off.
I do like a good breakfast order. I don't eat
I
breakfast
get
a
how you
lot, but it
want
makes
it,
it
but, like,
even more.
Do you want an omelet or pizza?
Well, pizza, but
Yeah, exactly. I think we just need to
I would
normalize.
say,
Normalize like normal food for breakfast.
but I would take a breakfast sandwich over pizza.
You would?
I think so.
That's
Even
a
if it had,
fucking
especially if it had bacon on it.
That's a fucking crazy take. I'm gonna be honest.
All right. Well, maybe Twitter will cancel me
No,
for that one.
I don't think. I mean, I would. You have to be. I just have to be in the mood for it. Like, yeah, if I'm hungover and I'm on the East Coast, not in fucking Michigan, because I'm not eating a bagel here. But like if I'm craving a breakfast sandwich, yeah, that's what I want over pizza. But like, I just think overall, breakfast food sucks. Like it's out of all the food that you could have, all the meals you could have, I would much rather go to brunch than breakfast because I can get lunch items because I don't fucking want.
Well, I do like a good brunch, but
or like French toast. I would rather drink spoiled milk than eat French toast. And I'm so serious. I'm not even kidding.
I'm a big French toast fan, so
I can't. And you stink like syrup all day. It's gross.
What about breakfast pizza?
Breakfast pizza is good. Actually, my guilty pleasure, which I guess this totally eliminates like my very hot take I just gave. I like gas station breakfast pizza.
Gas station pizza?
Really good. Yeah. There's a grocery store here called Meijer. Well, the Midwestern say Myers, but there's no fucking S. But they have gas stations and they make a really mean breakfast pizza.
Okay. Well, I'll have to try that.
Yeah. Bottom line is
right.
I'm pro dinner for breakfast.
All right. Final question from Nick Mess at Nick Mess 4. Why'd you bet on Spieth?
It's called a lady boner and not having self-control, because every week I do this. I wrote a little dramatic thread about it on Twitter the other day, because when he does win, if I'm not on him, it will make me sick. Like there's nothing worse when it comes to golf betting than finally getting off a guy that you've continued to put money into and then they win. Oh, the worst feeling in the world. Worst feeling in the world.
We've talked about your lady boner bets off the air. I don't know if you've talked about it much on the air, but
no, we need to. We're addressing it this next week. It's just like
we talked about.
He's cute.
We talked about telling the audience to fade men that you find attractive because you continually lose money on them.
Yeah, I think that everyone should do that. Like that should be anytime I'm like doing the water emojis or talking about how hot, like I can't stop with Spieth. He's just gorgeous. Like God took his time with him, and I just feel like someone needs to bet on him, and it's gonna be me.
Yeah. You'd be friends with benefits with him if you wanted to be.
Yeah, if he wanted to be, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All
Is that the
right.
last question?
That's the last question.
Okay. I'm nervous to see what's going on with the Masters. I did take a little break for everyone, so I hope everyone enjoyed this draft show. We're going to be doing an extra episode next week. I want to get another mock draft in. We got to get Jason back on because he's really sharp when it comes to this draft stuff. Honestly, I'm really sharp too when it comes to the draft. But we got to lock in, get our bets together. And if you're watching still, well, even if you're not, if you're watching again, subscribe. If you're listening, rate, review, helps us out a lot. And we'll see you guys Tuesday for the next
Tuesday, and then bonus episode Wednesday,
bonus,
Friday,
bonus,
boner episode
boner episode Wednesday, and then Friday as well.
Okay,
a lot of
looking forward to it.
Okay,
a lot of action.
Watch him make it, break it, break it, break it.